There won't be audio in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, at least we. I noticed them.
I think about when I was, I was over there and I had the caption.
Right.
No, and actually, I didn't see that until he was.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe
it was recent, yeah.
maybe it dropped.
Maybe from all the directions. Okay.
It might have been, it was like right in the video strip. Anyway, sorry. Now I can see it. Full screen. All right, so moving on. Does anyone have any discussion or any questions or any, their strategic plan at all? Move on to our public participation. There's no one in the audience right now, so I'm going to move on unless someone in the next 10 seconds runs through that door. I won't even read my spiel. All right, we'll move on to the administrative and board updates, starting with Chris.
Superintendent update is school ends up today.
Really?
School ends on Wednesday.
It's been a great year. It's been a great year. It's been a great year.
It's been really good.
All right, board president update is, school ended for some. A couple weeks ago, and we had a fantastic graduation ceremony, beautiful weather, last Friday, so that was wonderful. I always tell people that's the best part of our job is to actually see everything culminate in that great ceremony. You'll be next year, it'll be great, but you were there, you were helping, you did such an important job.
What did we graduate?
That's right. You handed us some problems. And we'll move on to the student representatives report.
Yeah, so, school is coming to an end, so there isn't a lot of things to report back on. However, in the last couple of weeks, we did have updates, so that's been about like creators from above and kind of observe the high schools and maybe kind of prepare for it. And I think that was really interesting. I heard a lot of good feedback from the creators themselves, so I think it's a really cool event that we showcase. And within update, we had updates from just where all the clubs kind of line up in the cafeteria and promote their like goals and just stuff club and everything. And I think that was a really fun event to try and gather more support for these clubs. And it was just an interesting thing to learn about the clubs we do have the high school kids, sometimes in office. So I think it was really good. Awesome.
We'll move on to our consent items. We have requests for leave and retirements. Consent items are typically approved in bulk.
Move that the Board of Education approve the consent items in bulk. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor of approving the consent items in bulk, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. They have been approved. We move on to our action items, which start with our administrator salary level placements. It's time to approve level placements for administrative staff for the fall of 2023. Our packet includes a memo from the superintendent recommending approval of the attached level placements.
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the attached administrative level placements for the 23-24 school year. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Contract for the administrators, instead of steps that have not been levels that this represents all of our teachers who are now at the top level, all those at G are.
Thank you. I was going to ask you what the top level was, just for clarification. So too many people are still at G. All right. Any other questions or discussion? All right, this is the roll call. Because it's an action item, we will do a roll call. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
And you guys support. I remember Dick supported it. That's right. That's why I was. Mrs. Brewery. Aye. Mrs. Grader. Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mrs. Awira.
Aye.
It's been approved. All right. right, we'll move on to our next action item, which is our policy second reading. At the May 22nd meeting, the board approved policy 5512, use of tobacco by students for first reading.
I'll move that the Board of Education approve policy 5512 for second reading and final approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right.
I would like to change. I don't know, use of tobacco with students. It's concerned about use of tobacco.
Non-use.
Non-use.
Yeah, right.
Prohibited use by students.
I always stumble on the word tobacco because when I was a girls on one coach, it was always cute to hear like the third graders trying because they've never heard of it before. Tobacco. So anyway. All right, it's been, so we will put it to a roll call. Mrs. Greatorex. Aye. Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mrs. Serrera.
Aye.
Mrs. Bruderly.
Aye.
That's passed. All right, we'll move on to our first reading policies. It's May 16th meeting. The policy committee reviewed draft policy updates from Neola. The committee is recommending the following policies to the board: 7540.02 web accessibility, 7540.03 student technology acceptable use and safety, 7540.04 staff technology acceptable use and safety, 7544 social media, 8300 continuity of organization operations plan, 8305 information security, 8315 information management, and 8400 school safety information. These are presented as first readings.
I move that the Board of Education approve the attached policies for the first reading as presented and by the president.
I'll second.
Today, sorry.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing that three of us are from the policy.
Dick, do you have any questions for us?
There's one that needs a selection.
Yes, that's right. The inadvertently missed selection.
Right. So the second one, 7540.02. Page 2. The section right before website accessibility.
Oh yeah, I was looking for the big red box that you put on mine. So yes, it's like the second page in, 2/3 of the way down the page. The superintendent shall prepare administrative guidelines defining the rules and standards applicable to the use of the board's website and the creation of web content, apps, and web services by staff. And we were assuming we would have selected students. Yes, we just forgot to actually mark that. That's right into yours now. Yes.
That was good.
This is just first reading, so we have that change and
Yeah, you guys have the. Great. Is there any further discussion? Put it to a roll call vote. We're gonna start with last meeting. Mr. Lundy.
Aye.
Mrs. Serrera.
I
Mrs. Bruderly.
Aye.
Mrs. Greatorex.
Aye.
I assume we approved that with the change we talked about.
Yes, because it's,
We changed the second reading. So
correct. Right, our next action item is. Yes, appoint a PD advisory committee. Our packet contains an executive summary from the Executive Director of Instruction, Ryan Bruder, regarding the formation of a professional development PD advisory committee. Mr. Bruder will be on hand to answer questions.
move that the Board of Education appoint the Delta team as the PD advisor committee for the 2023-2024 school year.
It's been moved and seconded. Is Great discussion.
So as part of our calendar for the school year, we have some PE days, actually requirement for school days. So in order to do that, though, you have to have, whereas in charge of PD, talk about the strategic plan, the Delta group is being in charge of PD. It's formalities and being tools, but it actually is a structural that allows us to continue the process to keep the strategic plan forward and
Creates a lot of ownership.
You said it was,
Important.
yeah, and you said that was pretty fluid this year. There was a couple of actually.
yeah, that was the PLC.
Okay.
Built out the Delta. The Delta is essentially it's a district-wide school.
All right.
It is all the school improvement chairs for every building, and then administrators and then representatives across the teaching staff. And they help shape our. It actually works. It's working really well.
So I just have two questions, this doesn't matter of interest. So will the Delta team be presenting the PD, or they're in charge of putting it together and it might be our staff and it might be outside staff and they're just coordinating what needs to happen?
Yeah, it's a combination. We have some things, actually, we have. Tell them all.
Get there to put together our calendar for next year. And part of it is our professional development plan that we've had a chance to review with our full Delta team. We're really working diligently to make sure that professional development is more intentional for our district. It's more focused on the strategic plan. So all of our professional development next year will fall into one of four categories. One being building-based professional development, where we're allowing administrators to meet the specific needs of their buildings. So that can be anything from restorative practices to English language arts. We really work with the admin team to make sure that they are getting what they need. The next is off of the instructional framework for teaching practices. So every educator in our district had an opportunity to vote on a core teaching practice they want to improve on. We had a lot of similarities, which is exciting. So our coaches will be facilitating learning walks focused on those practices. And then we will have the opportunity to have our educators that are proficient in those practices teach other peers, teach their colleagues about what they do in their classroom. So whether it's making relationships with kids or facilitating group instruction and group conversation, experts from the field will be able to provide professional. We'll have an opportunity for our PLC work. So you've heard a little bit about our Delta team at PLC leading professional development in one of the four categories. That will continue. And then also we'll have an opportunity for departments across grade levels to get together to think about skill and competency alignment. So as we work toward competency-based learning, it's important that we have an opportunity to think about what is it that we're doing at our grade level, and how does it interconnect with what we're doing before and after us to make sure that there's a fluid. So the answer to the question, that Delta group will be providing guidance and oversight, and at times will also be leading, but really making sure that there's more of an overview and a really thoughtful plan for professionals.
And then I guess my second question, I think my understanding is these PD hours are mandated like by the state. And I guess I just wondered, are there state mandated requirements for what's involved in any of these things?
There are requirements. It's pretty broad, what you can and can't do. We're required to do 30 hours of district provided professional. We actually have more time than that with this setup, because we know we need our staff, especially coming out of the pandemic, they need more time together. So it gives us more time together with them. Yeah, buildings and district wide. There are things that cannot. So just meeting together doesn't, it has to be. It's really the basic guidance. So the structure we have, and we have it, I talked about rapid prototype. It's this constant cyclical process that it's plan, execute, review, plan, execute, review over and over and over. That's like, if you actually follow the color sticky notes, you can see the process. But it's really well thought out. Ryan and his team have done an incredible job figuring this out. It fits the calendar model. It actually ties everything together, which is our first chance for years to tie it together. We've always kind of dabbled with the calendar and then dabbled with how we're going to do this, that, have the greatest plan, but not the whole structure with the focus of the strategic plan and the structure of how to move it. Really, this is one of the next steps to continue operationalizing this. And what it is, we already have school improvement chairs that are rebuilding. And this is how we're going to do it.
We've actually gone from meeting state requirements, checking boxes that creates real focus. That has value. It's interesting. First began by motion, having our educators take time away from students teaching to actually do their own learning. It's very important. To have the whole thing get set up on the person with all that coaching and stuff like that. That's to me, that's part of the champion part of that doesn't have any restrictions. Everybody who can touch champion.
This is somewhat formality. Curious about. Really, we have to do it to be able to meet state laws.
We're making it meet.
Yeah. You ready for the vote?
Yeah.
Mrs. Zamora?
Aye.
Mrs. Brunnerly?
Aye.
Mrs. Greater?
Aye.
Mr. Lundy?
Aye.
And the last of our action items is the BOE 2023-2024 calendar.
I'll move that the Board of Education adopt the attached 2023-2024 meeting calendar as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? All right. Mrs. Brunnerly?
Aye.
Mrs. Greater?
Aye.
Mr. Lundy?
Aye.
Mrs. Zamora?
Aye.
All right, it has been approved. Put it in your calendars. You know. I'll send everyone Google Invites if you want them. You just.
That'd be great.
Send it. That'd be awesome. Yeah. Perfect. All right, we'll move on to our discussion items, starting with the ELA curriculum. Our packet includes a summary and recommendation from the Executive Director of Instruction, Brad Gruder, regarding the proposed adoption of the new English language arts curriculum. The review process was shared with the board May 22nd, 2023. That meeting, and this item is presented for discussion later this evening.
I have to say, quotes, he is so dedicated in this process. He's here for.
Happy birthday.
Where's the cake?
It's at home. I think my kids are gonna save me a piece. But you never know. Really pleased to be here this evening. Really excited that Brooke and Katie were able to join as well. This has been 2 years in the making. So the last meeting, we talked a little bit about what the last 2 years of ELA have looked like. This year has been really intense in terms of the actual curriculum review. Earlier this month, the three of us had an opportunity to facilitate kind of a final debrief with our ELA team and figure out what would be our next steps. We went into that meeting with protocols. We had no agenda other than protocols. We wanted to have an opportunity for our ELA experts to share their experiences, to share their optimism, to share their concerns, and for us collectively to make a decision. I think the outcome was one that none of us could have planned for it. And if you had a chance to look at the recommendation, you see that we are actually recommending 2 ELA programs. Bookworms for our kindergarten through 2nd grade teachers, and collaborative literacy, which is our being a reader, being a writer for our 3rd and 4th grade. It was apparent as the day went on that our kindergarten through 2nd grade teachers were so passionate about bookworms, and they thought and they know that what that program can help them do as educators and help their reading and writing, their learners. They were so excited. The same level of excitement existed for our 3rd and 4th grade teachers with being a reader, being a writer. They saw so much potential for what they're currently doing, what they'd like to be doing, and this being an opportunity to bridge the gap. We didn't feel right stripping that joy, stripping that passion from either one of these groups. We very easily could have gone in the room and said, you know what, let's pick one. And we knew that that would potentially upset one of the two buildings. But one thing that we know to be true is equally as important as a curricular resource is teacher advocacy, believing in the program, believing in self. And to know that these teachers who represented their building believed so much in the program and wanted so much in the program that it was unanimous amongst the schools. Every single teacher at the deck unified around bookworms, and every single teacher at Wiley unified and collectively supported collaborative literacy. The three of us met for hours after that day, and we processed everything. We said, is this the right decision? And we felt really confident and really good, but we said, let's sleep on it. And the next day, let's call some partners, let's call some vendors, let's call some other schools and run this idea by them. Could this work? And everyone said, if you have the right people, it can work. And that just was the cherry on top, because we know we have the right. We know that this will make a little bit more, it will make some additional work for us in terms of being thoughtful about professional development, but we feel confident that our staff will be able to make this leap. One thing that we are cognizant of, we're already having conversations, is what happens in that second to third grade transition. Had an opportunity to speak to a third grade administrator and a third grade curriculum director about collaborative literacy in third grade, thinking about what would it look like for our students to transition from bookworms. Got a full endorsement. They thought there'd be no problem at all for our kids to transition. We feel really good about the programs. We feel really good about the professional development plans. Our two coaches are inspired. They're eager. They've already put together a calendar of how to best support all of our kindergarten through fourth grade teachers. At the back of the packet, you'll see there's some estimates in terms of some costs for the upcoming year. There are materials that come with these programs. It does look like a big number. I will give you that. But when you think about the larger need and the importance of literacy, this is a small price to pay. And it's one that I really hope the board considers supporting. Katie Brooke, do you like to add about?
I think, just to Ryan's point, that we all from the beginning thought we were going to pick something that is K4 so that we can unify the buildings. But with both of us having taught in both lower L and upper L, realized that there's a lot of unique needs. So when we came back to the table, we're like, well, we have to trust them that it'll be more work for us, but in the end, it's what's best for the kids.
Yeah, I think, you know, the lower elementary, the need for the phonics and that very systematic, engaging phonics piece was really what really unified the deck. And then for Wiley, you know, then you're making that transition from learning to read to reading to learn, and the collaborative literacy program. When the teachers piloted that, the kids just loved it. Like the love of wanting to read, the opportunities for integrating the science and social studies, which is helping us to do a lot of place-based work that Chris talked about earlier. It just seemed like to do one or the other was then going to
Feel really icky.
and just cause gaps that we know we need to fill right now. So that's where
I will say, I'm glad that you spoke to the transition, because that was one of my first
yes.
worries was, okay, they're gonna go into something, and obviously it's not completely different, but it is, you know, that is that transition into, and as well as the kids are going from one building that they've been used to another building. That's always such a huge transition for them anyway. So that was my first question, was about the transition between two programs. Will it be easy for if teachers want to go back and forth?
That's a terrific question. One piece of feedback that we received from both buildings is they've never felt more confident in the curricular resource in terms of teacher usability. One flaw that we highlighted the last time about our current resources, it's pretty labor intensive for the educator. It's not uncommon. In fact, I drove by tonight. There are a lot of teachers late nights planning, particularly for English language arts for the next day. Both the K2 staff and the 3-4 staff felt really confident in the programs that they recommended and endorsed, saying that it's streamlined without losing any credibility or losing any proficiency of the curricular resource. They felt really good about what they were able to do, and they were able to spend more time with families, spend more time planning for science, social studies, and other content areas that weren't being given as much attention. So I don't foresee it being a huge problem. The other nice thing that we're doing is by getting both of our coaches trained in either program, they'll be supports. We also have access to some asynchronous modules. So as we hire new staff in the future, or staff trade buildings, or we're to move from a grade level, there's an opportunity to onboard staff to a new program. One nice thing is that both of these still operate in that workshop format. So it feels very familiar to staff, whether you're in a kindergarten class or a third grade class. Obviously, the content would be different, but I think that our teachers would be fine.
Because we are unique in our district that we are separated K through 2, 3, and 4. So it is very likely that teachers do shift grades. So I just wanted to make sure that we're not creating more work.
Yeah.
If people want to move around.
It's a great point to elevate, something that we took seriously when making the recommendation.
Thank you.
And although I don't, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. That's now.
Correct. But again, I know that teachers have a lot, and that there is that shift. I can imagine that a teacher that's in Wiley with teaching 3rd grade, if they're making a shift to 2nd grade, the thought that, oh no, now I have to learn an entirely new curriculum for the language, English language arts is, that would be a daunting thing,
Sure.
I would think.
And I don't think it's a hang up by any means, but I would like to be fully informed as to, had you guys done one for all K through 4, what would that have been a financial difference?
Yeah, that's a terrific question. To be honest, the cost savings on going one program versus 2 are kind of moot, in the sense that even as we're working toward professional development, we would have had to bring in 2 trainers for either program, for the 3, 4, and the K2. And the quotes are fairly comparable in terms of how to go on program A for K4. I don't know that the difference would have been substantial enough to really make us hit the pause button and say, is this the right move? I'm happy to get you a full estimate of what either would have been, but as we look at them, there's a rough number per grade level. It's pretty comparable program A to program B.
You're saying it's negligible, and it's not a huge amount.
It's not
I
a
just
huge
wanted to know.
amount. It's not a huge amount.
Fortunately, why we do have an item in our designated fund balance for things like this, and ultimately it's more important to do the right thing. As long as we, it's not an impact immediately on the operating budget, because we do support the program.
It's really interesting too, because to be honest, I'll speak for myself. I'm not sure about Katie and Brooke, but I've been nervous in the sense that I wasn't sure how staff would respond to a new ELA program. It's been a few hard years, and to learn a new ELA program, that's a big undertaking. And as I went in the building last week after we shared with staff what the recommendation would be, I was met with nothing but excitement. People are excited about the new ELA program. They said, when can we get access to it? What will the training be like? Where we're going to get, like, the excitement level was really validating for myself and for us, and that I think that people are going to come back inspired and ready to teach in a new, different way.
You said, oh, we have to bring it to the board.
I didn't say it like that. Lisa, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to chime in and say, number one, I think you have done a magnificent job sort of creating the case and helping us understand the process the district has gone through to make us feel comfortable about how the choices were made. And the need for us to invest in a new program at this point. I think I'm absolutely convinced that everyone picked the program that was the best fit, and I'm not worried about our teachers helping the kids and the families move from 2nd to 3rd. I'm gonna be honest, my only reservation is the financial piece, especially as we move to a discussion of the budget, and I know we have money for new funds. I think it would make me feel not necessarily more comfortable, but better able to sort of answer questions that come our way if we had a little more understanding about what the impact is of choosing to support 2 curriculums as opposed to 1. I can appreciate what you said about just having, double the trainers. Part of me worries about just like, there will be more staff time in terms of being trained in two programs. There will be need to help train staff, new staff coming in, staff that might have to move, as Mara said, even if the resources are there. I mean, I totally buy everything that you're saying. I'm supportive of the overall concept. I'm also just, we've been getting a lot of email from the community about budget and the impact in various ways in the district. And I just feel like the responsible thing is to at least ask for what impact this really does have financially. So.
Just as there are two buckets for top general operations funding, within the general operation, financing. Why, the board designations there, and we don't look at that as managing numbers on a sheet of paper. That's providing resources to manage programming in particular. And this just is so synergetic with why that's there. So I think it's fair to explain that this is something we plan on generically. This is a great opportunity to take money we've been setting aside.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I just,
Well, that's what to explain to people.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, we are getting responses already about the choices being made in the budget. And so I just want to feel like we can authentically say, we really have evaluated what people have shared with us. So that,
but we've also planned for years and we've done this before. And it's not something that's not Bobby Peter, they fall.
It's one time fund versus ongoing operation. Expenses, salaries. And one of our most important things we do is teach kids how to read. The science has significantly changed and our materials need to reflect that change so that our teachers can use the current materials don't follow current research. So we can continue doing what we're doing, knowing things wrong. And our teachers can then continue to try to create their own resources and work outside of it. Or we can give them the right resources. The difference between one program and two is probably $25,000 at most year. It's not a lot.
And it's interesting because we're coming off of some really challenging years. During COVID, we really did hit the pause button for curricular review and bringing on new. But prior to that, curricular review was part of a process, right? Districts look at their resources and say, are they still current? Are they still the best? Textbooks are updated, right? So if we were to stick with the curricular resource that we currently have for English language arts, come fall, there's a new resource and they're not supporting the old one. So we would be talking about making a large purchase one way or the other. We thought that, just as a reminder to the last meeting, that was the opportune time to say, if we have to get more something or new something anyway, should we see is there something better out there that better aligns with the science of reading and with the current climate in literacy? So we'd be having a conversation about purchasing new material, whether it was program A, B, or C come this fall, just knowing where we were in that 8-year cycle and the resources being updated themselves.
yeah, no, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Absolutely understand the need for new resources. I can see
For sure.
us being questioned about the choice to support two curriculums. And so I just felt like it would be,
Even if it's a negligible number.
Right.
Knowing
I
what
mean,
it is and to say it's within the budget, it's under the budget, whatever it is.
yeah, even a target like 25,000, if that's about it, then that's a helpful number, I think, for us, because you know.
One of the things we heard from the teachers, K2 teachers, said the program we're recommending for K2 really was easiest for them to plan. The 3rd and 4th grade teachers said that was one of the harder ones for them to plan. 3rd and 4th grade teachers said, recommended for 3rd and 4th was one of the easier ones to plan. The K2 teachers were like, it was absolutely overwhelming. And part of that is every grade level, you have kids, and they're different as they get older, their needs are all different. So to write one program for any grade level, we found that even with the existing program, remember when they first went kindergarten, it was originally 3-5. And then went backwards and it was there.
Yeah,
Years.
the current resource is intended to be embedded PD through having the teacher read just pages and pages and pages and pages of text. And it's not it's not easy to follow in the sense that it's not really even bolded what the teacher should say to the kids. So there's a ton of highlighting, tabbing, and that really just tells the teachers how to do the mini lesson, which is like 15-minute lesson to the whole class. All of this, all of the small group instruction, which is really where we need to do our work because we know our readers have so many varying needs. Those were the pieces the teachers were all creating on their own. So it was causing a lot of inconsistency within a grade, within a school, within both of our schools. Whereas the current resources that we have, that we're recommending, they are, the PD is provided in either the asynchronous modules and or having people come in, and then our coaches will be trained, so they will train. And then the resources are what the teacher's going to say and follow. So even if you were to switch grades from, you know, Wiley to the deck or back the other way, it's so teacher friendly that, you know, you'd want to go observe colleagues, you want to have coaches come in, you want to do that asynchronous learning, but it wouldn't be nearly as challenging as even switching grades right now with the same resource that requires hours and hours and hours of reading on the teacher's part. So,
and one thing we went into was really focusing on that targeted small group instruction, because that's where we know really it's the most powerful piece of ELA instruction and the biggest piece that's lacking we're currently using. And with both programs at the appropriate level, it was the teacher like, this is just what we need. And what I was really blown away by was just in, you know, the 3 or 4 weeks that we did one program, I was already seeing gains in my readers, you know, with this one, because it was so targeted and so specific. So I thought,
We have a pilot teacher's task, and I finished the year, 3 more weeks, and I just finished the year. My kids are growing at a rate I've never seen before. Can I just go for it? Please do.
and not want to give you
Yeah.
resources.
I think too, the other thing,
no, you pick up track.
the other thing I think, yeah, obviously we wouldn't be able to, this is speculation. We wouldn't be able to prove this for a few years out in terms of return on investment, but a hope would be is if we're able to meet the needs of part of our learners, more students, closer to 80-85% are meeting that reading proficiency, potentially the amount of students that are requiring tier 2 or tier 3 support through reading intervention and potentially special education will hopefully lessen, right? So our investment for those subgroups is going to hopefully be less. So as the hopefully over time, this proves to be a fruitful investment in the sense that we're not only being able to educate more students and more students are becoming proficient readers, but potentially we can become more focused because we will have fewer students that we're identifying for intervention.
It's a great point, thanks.
And our advanced readers too.
Absolutely.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Our advanced readers also need that targeted instruction in order to, you know, to continue to be advanced, right? Yeah, so it's really, that's what we need to focus on, and that was the focus of the pilot team.
Awesome. Was it a basic term of an elementary school teacher? She was there. Same person experience. Great.
And I'm working, I've been working with the reps to get you a more accurate quote. Those are some ballpark estimates. The hope is not to exceed, but by the next board meeting, if there's any other data or any other information that you would like, I'm more than happy to prepare that for you all to make an informed decision.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for all of the time that you've spent and the insight and truly the passion that you were bringing to make sure that you're getting the right programs, the right curriculum. So thank you so much for all that.
And the teachers were piloting.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
We all have special party.
Yes, yeah, and Ryan has done a
Oh
lot,
my
a
God.
lot.
Yeah,
behind the
thank you for
scenes.
coming in for
Yeah.
this.
Hey, my
Yeah.
pleasure.
And navigated all of the emotions that elementary teachers have around reading too, by the way, in such a professional way.
Okay, our second item for discussion. Yay, it's the budget discussion.
So we've been fortunate as a district historically, years. What we've seen post-pandemic is housing patterns have changed, interest rates have impacted the amount of new development in the district has changed. What used to happen were parents and children would graduate and then they would downsize with 6 to 7% interest rates. It's not happening. It was. So we're not seeing that same increase of students that we were. We are graduating currently around 300 a grade and bringing in the 200 range for kindergarten. We historically would sprinkle in that 100 or more. Into the middle grade, into like kindergarten, grade-ish. It's not happening. The county numbers.
The 200 in kindergarten really dropped.
Yeah, we were at.
We were really running 225 to 250. Still in 50 or 60. City.
What else we're seeing is the county birth rates in this entire region of the country. The county birth rates are really low. The current seniors that fourth graders, there were 4,248 children born in 2005. In 2020, 3,255. So 25%. That's a challenge. It's impacting every district. We finally saw the state of Michigan publicly say we have a population problem. It's been brewing for 2 decades. So we're hopeful that development of Jackson Road will help us fill in long term, but we need to adjust budgetarily and staffing the number of kids we have. It's not a 1-year blip. We are permanently down about 240 kids. So when we look at our projections, we ran middle cities as a group that we have new projections. We really, our budget, share was a +3, that's what we're going with, +4. Our budget is basically flat. That means we got to fill in the gap between the seniors that graduated and kindergartners. We're seeing some enrollments a couple per grade. So we're seeing the numbers kind of fit. We use the ESSER funds, the American Recovery Act funds, to keep class sizes really small in the elementary and to fund several positions since you used all those dollars. So the dollars have run out now. We need to make some decisions. What this represents is we are down roughly 250 students K8 and mostly K6, which means we have fewer classrooms to run. We have fewer classrooms to run. We need fewer specialist teachers. So specials, as we reduce sections, specials works proportionally. So when we move kindergarten, from 11 kindergarten sections to 10, that is 5 hours less a week of special every time we reduce the section. So when we move Wiley down 2 full sections, that's 10 hours a week less of special. And we had room this year. We could have actually reduced specials this year, but we're using the American Recovery Act hours as best we could. And using a lot of the grant funds, filling in holes wherever we could. We have a lot of play in our schedules to reduce staff. We're trying to do as much as we can for attrition, but it's not possible all of it through attrition. And there's decision points that have to be made. So what this represents is how many sections we really think we need in the elementaries, how many specials we need to cover those while maintaining the specialist teachers in. We could continue with 5 specialty at each building, but we don't have any kids to put in front of the teachers for about a third of the day. So they're either part-time or we pay people money we don't have, and we have kids in front of them. So the decision points are, the first one is look at the proposed reductions. We would move from 11 kindergarten sections to 10. The class sizes would still be fairly low. They'd be in contractual limits. We were way lower than that. We'd be able to save 148,000 people in absence. That 148,000 represents one teacher, that's a specific teacher's salary and healthcare and retirement costs. Reducing a section at Wiley, there's retirement, would say not filling that, that's attrition. Reducing another section at Wiley, which would be a layoff based on effectiveness rating with seniority as a tiebreaker of all case by all certified teachers.
It's gonna be our last shot.
We have to negotiate changes. Reduction in section at Creekside to manage the enrollment. Again, that would result in layoff. Reduction in elementary literacy liaison because we no longer have the grant funding. If we receive additional 31A funds for next year, this would be an area we're going to look at adding in. But the state budget isn't done yet. Not 100% sure what they're gonna do. In retirement for literacy support, we've actually lost the grant fund for it. We have a reduction in our federal grant funds, so we have a retirement in that position. So this would be, we don't have the revenue to pay for this already. So this would also address the expense. We used American Recovery Act funds and ESSER funds to pay for a personalized learning coach for math at Creekside. She would go back to the classroom, which we'd have to handle some attrition and fill that position with attrition. We'd have elimination of Mandarin. We don't have enough sections to teach it. You know, we have 2 Mandarin teachers. And right now, what we need to cover is an hour, 2 hour, or an hour and a half at the end of the day at Mill Creek, and then floating 45-minute and an enrichment. We have one of the Mandarin teachers that actually special ed certified and Mandarin certified, so we have some special ed needs, so we can handle both. With the rest of the Mandarin courses, we don't have enough to teach.
When you say elementary Mandarin and Spanish, though, that's wild, because we've already taken out to.
Right, it's why I agree, and then moving into Creekside, we would have Spanish and some kind of culture.
But these are curriculum changes.
These are, the problem is we have to make decisions, we want to play art, music, PE, language, or media, depending on the building.
Are there any swing teachers that can do art and music?
They're not certified for both.
I know, I'm sure you looked at all these options, I'm just asking the questions.
Our music teachers are only certified. for
We're
art.
hiring. We just hired.
And they really, you don't find anybody that's certified for multiple. That's
Not unusual. But you just said our Mandarin teacher has special education, that's why I asked the question.
because she planned, because she decided to keep going, she decided to get special answer.
The other one is research. So we're going through that, who's right?
Potentially, yes. Like, media, here's our media issue that we have in them. Is we had at one point a certified media specialist in every building. At the high school, they worked in the media center. There were no classes, I can say. Across the street, media was a special. At Wiley, media was a special. And even back to the base corner, sometimes we had a media specialist in the building. In the last 5 years, 15 people graduated in the state of Michigan with media. In the entire state. So, as people have left or retired, we have not been able to fill them. We tried to fill the Creekside job 3 years and couldn't fill it. Wiley, we had someone who wasn't certified in media that we put in there. We changed the instructional tech. There's a cert that instructional tech cert that met the requirements for the state box to check, sort of. They still dinged us on our final reports because it wasn't library. They get points for library. You had to be a certified librarian, but there's no graduates in the library. So this year, because we had that person left, the teacher left right week before school started. And we had already been out of the gate that we had scheduled, we were gonna have offered special or a special. We tried to find someone certified, we just went through trying to Creekside, we found one candidate at Creekside. We decided not to take the job, because they're moving us back to Michigan, another state of no time. So we moved a teacher internally, which left us with 2 certified media specialists at the deck and 1 that splits between Mill Creek and the high school. We reassigned 1 at the deck over to Wiley to run media as a special. And we can still run 4 specialists. If at the deck, we would not schedule media as a special. The media specialist would have a para in each library to be able to have classes that will rotate through, be able to do less good classes. But it'll give us certified media specialist paid for, but not as a class in K2. What we have to do though is if we make it a special, Media specialists need free time to manage media center. So you can't maximize the day. This is the other challenge. So historically, we've given them about a quarter of the day with the classes assigned to the day to finish the center. Because there's books to order, there's things to manage. So we're at a point we have to make decisions. This is my recommendation. And I only see a couple options. It's this or bunch of people part-time, but not certified special teachers. Or policy said they have to be certified. They are certified technically. Michigan law says K-5 all means do anything, which means that we have to do these layoffs, figure out we have PE teachers that be laid off, someone else that's K-5 certified PE. Same with art. You want someone that actually had a degree in art, teaching art, or someone like I legally could probably teach elective some things.
It doesn't let you review art.
I would be that. I'd do that. So this is these are some of the decisions. We have another reduction in elementary specialist teachers part-time of music posting we have out. We don't have enough sections.
Going back to section, to be realistic, like you're gonna have specialist teachers at 0.67 or even add it up to 0.75 insurance. Are we really gonna have people who want to have those jobs?
Not 10 or 15 of them. No. We'll have a few that say
So that's
stay because
not
they
a
love
job.
it. They'll have other
Solution.
jobs. Yeah, the actual market right now, there are teaching jobs. They'll find it. If we look at these, we have a special ed retirement. We have a voluntary music teacher moving to part-time. We have a retired teacher that will be returning in contract. Reducing an instructional coach position, we that instructional coach back in the classroom. We had Mr. Barrett retired mid-year, we still have him in the budget, so not replacing Mr. Barrett, but then we had to fill a section with another section. We could collapse them all, but by that schedule for them. Reducing a legal teacher based on effectiveness with seniority as a tiebreaker. Reduction of our super subs with subs in the classroom, subs in transportation, subs in service, subs in care, whatever we need. We're able to getting in a better position to find subs now. A reduction in we have a teacher who would like to go to 6-7 at the high school. And then we have a retirement that we have a retire, which the difference between the cost is another 30,000. And then changes in administration. This is a soft number. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but we'll figure out a way to save money. Good work. Ballpark, what I think we might be able to save. The problem we have is Mrs. Holland just moved to the principal position at the high school. She's been a half-time assistant principal this year at Creekside and half-time running alternative ed at Irving Middle College. She's going to continue the alternative ed middle college from the high school as the high school. You have to do a half-time across the street, but then what do you do with the other half? People don't want to work at them. The difference between an assistant principal salary and a teacher that's at the top of the scale is $4,000. So it doesn't say much looking at some options. I'm hoping that 40,000 may change for the next meeting, but I needed a number for today, and that's a soft number.
As always, why we will do something sort of makes sense June, and then figure out what it's really going to look like when school starts in September.
And I can tell you, these are not real deep cuts. These are the adjusting to the enrollment. We have on budget projections, now the number of kids we are it's about a $4 million problem. If this gets us 1.8 million less, if we did more, then you're talking serious cuts. So if those apartments don't get us kids, we're going to be doing real cuts. Not that these aren't, I've done $4 or $5 million cuts. This is adjusting.
Also, this is the bridge.
So is the expectation that this will get us through next year?
Should. Kids should also, yeah, if kids don't start showing up out of the apartments, then we're gonna have some serious. Then it's not just addressing and adjusting sections. Then it's which program.
So with respect to layoffs of some of the, really looking at the media as well as the elementary languages. If that happens, are we presented with curriculum change that? Or
We
is
have
it
courses
just
we
a
can
shuffle?
offer is for, so what would happen at K2? Grade on 5 through 6th grade. We currently have using launch art, PE, and media. So we would continue to run art, PE, media, and launch. And then in 3rd, 4th grade, we currently have language, art, music, PE, media, groups, and
It's something you said in the.
no, we would not offer media, or we'd offer media.
But not in K through 2.
But media, we still have a certified media specialist and both media centers open, classrooms, set up location.
What you said, earlier meeting was that we are the only school county that has media as a special. And we're not really eliminating media, but we're changing the structure. Perception could be that we're eliminating something, but we're modifying it. May not be as desirable, but it's something like eliminating focus on media is delivering.
Our kids will still read books, will still get lessons. It just won't be the one of the structure time. We did, I know it might have been right before Mr. Cooper started at Bates, or right when you started our meeting, this was media center. Our media specialist here saw classes for 30 minutes a week. That's what she said. So we're not changing entirely what we're supposed to. But it is a change. And we have two choices. We have to figure out if we want to keep media centers as a special.
Sounds very thoughtful, I'm sure, and it's always gonna be unhappy. You better be happy with these changes, but.
Unfortunately, when there's changes, people see what they're losing. They don't see anything they're gaining because it isn't there. I've seen it in a lot of places. It's a little different here, but it's still just human nature.
Sure.
It's true. I do think it's important to acknowledge that the board has heard from more people about the change in specials. As we've heard about any topic since the pandemic, I think we have had a significant amount of email and personal conversations with people we know, people we don't know, people we run into. So I do think it is important to just consider what we are, how we are delivering the curriculum to kids, and that there is a desire. I had an extended conversation with someone about language, and I mean, I think the board had an extended conversation on language when we approved launch. No one wanted to lose language, and so I mean, even myself, I go, well, we lost language, now we're losing more language, and that wasn't my goal at the beginning. So I think I knew in August that we were going to have a problem this year. I knew we were going to be having these discussions. I'm not surprised to see it, but I think it's important to just acknowledge that this matters to people's jobs. It matters to people who have a thought that their kid is going to be exposed to certain content. And I think as a district, especially in light of needing to restructure a bit, I hope we continue thinking about how we can deliver information. I mean, you know, I'm not sure if it's just an example, but I'm not sure how special schedules happen, but like, is there any reason we can't dabble certain subjects in different buildings, even if there's no formal. I don't know, if you have a rotating special, you know, or something like that. I think from what I've heard, families want their kids exposed to content. You know, I don't know that anyone has an expectation of efficiency of anything at any given year. But I think the concern that I'm hearing from people is, I want my kids to know there's language out there. That's not what we're speaking at home. I want my kids to have an idea that there are certain behaviors that are expected online. And I think the schools are in a great position to expose kids to things, even if we can't deliver a program. So I guess I'm just encouraging us to be really thoughtful about making sure that we're delivering what we can through the years. Because I think what people are seeing right now are holes in what happens when my kid gets to Wiley. There's nothing there, you know, about this topic or something like that. So at least that's what I'm hearing, like language, for example. So I agree with you. People are seeing what they're losing, but I also think there's some true intent behind what they're asking.
I think that part of the solution is to really put a heavy emphasis on communicating our story, what we're doing, why we're doing. I've seen a lot of that in stuff we've already published, staff and stuff. But I think we need to take a strong lead in getting information out, what's happening, why, rather than trying to modify because it's pushback or people don't understand really the significant complexity of the issue.
Well, and also what I'm hearing is that while we are eliminating media as a weekly special, we are not eliminating media altogether. There will be still time in the media centers, and there will still be interaction with the media specialist as well as with the teacher. So it's not that the teacher is doing all of the media training now. They will be in there with the media specialist. It just won't be the 1 hour a week. It might be something different, like on a rotation. And I think that's important to really communicate to families that we're not eliminating this we're eliminating it as a specific hourly special per week, but that it's not something that we are not eliminating the media center. Because I think that is what the story is, the narrative that is out there is that we are getting rid of media specialists and that we are, you know, throwing books out the window, and that you know, and
And the kids will miss
And the-
something.
their
I
kids
think
will
it's a real missing.
yeah, and I do, there have been several parents that when they are writing in, it is, they are worried that this is something that that is special to Dexter and makes Dexter students you know, grow more, because if we are the only school district in the county that has it as a special, they don't want to eliminate it. But I would challenge that maybe it's, I mean, I don't think that we're, like, it's not eliminated in Ann Arbor, and, you know, and it's an interesting way to word this, you know.
The challenge is we can't do everything with the number of kids we have. No one can do everything, no matter how many.
Right.
And given the employment market, we can't find certified pediatricians. We can't find elementary certified language teachers that scale offer that scale. That's a challenge, and then so we have to make decisions. We can do less art or PE or music, but then those teachers are part-time. And we plug in music or a language teacher on rotations. But then we have no one for the art, music, and PE teachers. We can't pay teachers.
I think it's also important, something that I noted was that when we did have somebody who sort of loosely was part of the requirements, that we got dinged on it. And so,
Yeah, what was that exactly?
yeah,
So when we do the state reports, there are two things. And looking at what's happening legislatively, I don't know how this is gonna work right now. But they give points for different things on scorecards. It changes every year. But we get it in looking at Barb, because we deal with what's called a rep report every year. That's a report from education personnel. So we have to code what people teach by their management certifications. So when you don't have a certified media specialist, you can't call it media plans. You have to call it something slightly different in code. So we had a certified instructional technology specialist. We called it elementary something technology. Even though it was the same class, but we had to meet the requirements. But then we don't get the points for a certified meeting. It's really,
No, I understand,
it's just kind of
I think it's
convoluted.
important to really say that, you know. To tell that story, to tell people that, you know, we're missing this important factor, and you're getting. You know, dinged by the state that they're noticing, so it's not just it's not just a warm body, it has to be someone who is specialized, has a specialty in it. So I think that's important to also note.
And we are, it is offer special. By certified. But if you could open the door and make that the door, then you're picking and choosing. So you're saying that it only matters, it's fine here, but for art, music, we're not. And when you think about if you have to make choices for K2, art, music, and PE truly are that special. And then the other ones we create are based on spaces. And what we get certifications, the launch allows us to have anybody K5 certified. Special cert, is a special cert. So it's a decision. Language, we technically can put anybody certified in K5, which we've done in the past, with spoken another language. It's so hard, we can't, it's not a sustainable scale. That's what we got to do last year. We can't staff it at scale.
Well, and not only is, to me, in my mind, I don't think that just, again, putting somebody in there that can speak another language, that's not only is it not sustainable, what kind of educational you know, merit are the kids getting from it, other than, okay, well, we got exposed to this, but we want to make sure that the kids are excited about this. That's the point of introducing them to these specials.
And we've made it go, we really did. We've gone 8 years strong, really trying, well, and there comes a point where you're like, do it, it's not sustainable.
In some respects, policies. We would have to do some of this stuff last summer, COVID ESSER money, and that's just kind of dragging us out. Made it worse with the declining student population. In addition to having gotten money that we wouldn't normally get and now losing. And we talked about it. You know, the alternative would have been not to take the money and do something like stuff. That's not years. That problem.
Well, and I think it's important that when we were talking about the ESSER funds, that they were temporary, it wasn't something that was sustainable, and we did a really good job, you guys, Sharon, did a really good job of spending the money where we needed to, and spending the money that we got so that we didn't lose it, because we took it. They were taking it back, so I think that is also important to say, that we were very mindful in the process of where we put it, especially, you know, putting it towards kids who were, you know, who would fall behind. So I think that as we've been very responsible with the ESSER money.
The other thing that is happening, so there are districts that are right now doing the same things that are adjusting based on our budget and no longer having ESSER funds. There are some that they plan the ESSER funds and stretch it out another year. So they're trying to adapt to what they're doing there. Then there are a bunch that I've been having conversations with districts that thought they were fine. They thought that the state giving us per pupil increase was going to help, and now they're getting the reality of, oh, we got a problem. And then there's other districts that they've historically been almost like the feeder system for teacher hires to districts like ours. So we're pretty consistent, us and some others are taking experienced teachers from other districts. Some of those are just right now quietly banking on that they're gonna have people naturally leave. They're just gonna collapse the position. So it's this dance back and forth that there's a few districts feel like they're okay for another year. Some they took their drop and they adjusted a couple years ago. Some they're just starting to see the drop. Ours, we made a time and it didn't.
The other thing that was working on is, Jessica, and I think, have been, heavily involved, I think, with discussions and understanding. They're going to have thrilled with it. Basically, it's important to understand the reality of the situation. And I think we're working hard to be able to deal with staff and answer questions. And basically, explain to what we're doing makes as much sense as anything that we really have as a choice.
We continue to, this is the first public discussion with it. The numbers continue to kind of ebb and flow. Like I changed one of these late last week because of the leave absence. So they will adjust and they can put it lay off the process. And just move some people in our place. So as there are other moves that'll happen, just we have to adopt a budget at the end of this month. And it would not be responsible to adopt a budget that $1 million hole. We have fund balance, we can't show $4 million a year. If they weren't so far along over on Jackson Road, we would be coming for significant cuts. But when you drive by that, there is that they put a lot of money into that earthwork and they're getting ready to go. There's
Why the drone was super quick.
it's huge. It's huge. You just look at it, it's huge. And it's apartments and condos. It'll be a different flow of students versus our $500,000 new mansions everywhere. It'll be different. But we need students. We treat every kid with love. The day they come in, we will do a great job with every kid that shows up. We can use more, just keep setting. Keep setting them. We need students to love the teaching. It's the best proposal we have.
Thanks for detailing.
Yeah.
Out. It's helpful for community as well as us to see it all written out.
So we'll get an update in September, reality.
This might even change next year.
It may guarantee something.
Is there any more discussion? Move on to public participation. No one has snuck into the meeting, so I'm gonna say, giving it 10 seconds for someone to run through the door. We'll move on to board comments.
I just have a quick WASB, if I can get that out of the
Okay.
way. So the election meeting happened, the two that we voted to elect are Stephen Olson and Serena Shivers were elected unanimously. There was also a board of directors meeting that laid out next year. I will send both to maybe pass on. They have the meeting dates and legislative breakfast dates for next year scheduled. I think those were the main things to set out. Yeah, thanks.
I want to thank the teachers and administrators for all the field trips and field days and the Wiley celebration, because that takes a ton of money and logistics and the parent volunteering as well. And I think it's so appreciated. And I know it's been open the last 3 weeks, especially in elementary and intermediate, because we're going all these places. So I really appreciate that. And the kids have been having fun.
Vote or two earlier, and save it for now, but it's not discussion. Voltaire said all genealogies are false. One of the things that I think is happened just before a period of time, we've had some individual stars, a lot of talent, a lot of people going on in the district. And I think what I see happen over the very recent years is developing a real district-wide team. And teams, what teams can accomplish is a lot more than what individuals started. And so I just feel really good about Chris's led and what is worked out through the district, the level of engagement. The staff working on these things.